In September 1980, Richard and Bonnie were very happy to have their first baby, but 3 days later, she disappeared with her baby. What really happened? Let's dive into the story. Our story today in United States, specifically in Modesto City, California. There was a couple, Richard and Bonnie. They met each other for the first time in college, and their relationship lasted for 7 years. Then they got married and had a child. And when Bonnie gave birth, Richard stayed looking after her for 3 days. But Richard had to go to work on the 4th day. Bonnie said, "It's okay, baby. I'm alright now, and I can take care of myself and the baby. Don't worry." Richard told her, "Okay, then I will call you every hour, and always keep the phone near you." Well, Richard went to work, and around 10:30 a.m., he called Bonnie to check on her. But she didn't answer. Richard started to worry, but he said maybe she's in the bathroom or in the back garden of the house. But he tried several times to call, but his wife did not answer. Richard worried a lot and decided to go home. When he entered the house, he said, "Bonnie, why don't you answer my calls?" But there is no one inside. Richard searched the whole house, but neither Bonnie or the baby were there. Richard began to call Bonnie's friend and family. She might be with them, but everyone said they didn't see her. Richard was puzzled, especially after he saw Bonnie's bag at home, and even her car was in the parking. So, where did she go? Richard went into the back garden and discovered that the back door of the house was open. Now, he felt something serious had happened. Immediately, he called the police. When the interrogators arrived, they found Richard almost collapsed. They told him to calm down and tell us everything. He said, "I went to work early morning, and when I got to the company, I called my wife and said that she was talking to me while she was carrying the baby. And in the second call, I asked her, 'Did the photographer come? Because we have a photo shoot for the baby at home.' She said, 'Yes, she's here now.' And when I called her for the third time at 10:30, she didn't answer. That's why I went home because I'm worried about her." Investigators started searching in the house to find evidence, like for example, something lost or something that was stolen. Richard said only the baby's chair and small knife that was always on the table disappeared. Then the investigators went out into the back garden and found the water tap open. The detective asked Richard, "Is your wife usually watering the lawn?" He said no, and yesterday I'm sure that I turned off the water tap before I went to bed. Then one of the investigators noticed that there was blood near the hose. Now the situation has become dangerous, and the worry of Bonnie and her baby has increased. Well, the forensic specialists take a sample of blood and fingerprints, and detectives began questioning Bonnie's family and friends, but they were suspicious of Richard. They asked Bonnie's sister about Richard and Bonnie's relationship, like they were always fighting or something unusual in their relationship. Bonnie's sister said that Richard and Bonnie love each other so much, and Richard cared about her, and the interest increased even more when he found out that Bonnie was pregnant. But Richard got the point of obsession. Like always, he called Bonnie and asked her, "What are you doing now? Who are you going out with? Don't go without me because I'm worried about you." And when the interrogators asked Richard, he said, "I love Bonnie so much, and I won't hurt her even one scratch," because Richard felt that the investigators treated him like a suspect. As you know, the police treat everyone as suspects until the information is proven. Then the investigators went to the company where Richard worked and asked his boss, "Did Richard leave the company that time?" His boss said no, he didn't get out of the company. "And I don't think Richard could hurt his wife because he loves her so much. I wonder if he really loved her or he just acting to hide his real face." Now the detectives want to know who the photographer who came to the house is. Richard said 2 days ago, Bonnie received a call from a photographer and told her she had an offer. She will take pictures of the baby and the family for free as a kind of company advertisement. But Richard doesn't know the photographer's name or where she works. The police started looking for all the photographers in the area, and all the photography companies said they didn't have a free offer, and they didn't take photos of the client at home because they had their own place to shoot. And that's the point. No one offers his service for free unless he has a second attention. Okay, maybe 50% discount or whatever, but for free? I can't believe it. Even the police concluded that this was kidnapping and the target was the baby. 24 hours passed and Bonnie's family were very worried. And then the result of the blood sample that was in the back garden identical to Bonnie's blood type. That means Bonnie's not okay. The investigators guessed that the baby was kidnapped for sale because that time in California, there were several cases of kidnapping the baby. If the baby was kidnapped for the purpose of selling, then what happened to Bonnie? And why did they take her? Well, the news spread in newspaper and TV, and they asked people who had any information about the baby or Bonnie to call the police. A few hours later, a lady called the police and told them, I received a call a few days ago from a photographer and she told me she has an offer that she will take photo of my baby for free. And I agreed. When she came to my house, she didn't have a camera. So I asked her, where's the camera? She said, yeah, in the car, but I want to see the baby and the house to choose the right room to take a pictures. At the same moment, my friend came and felt that the photographer was surprised and immediately said, I'm going to get the camera. But she didn't come back. Exactly the same story that Richard told. The detective said, can you describe her? She said, a woman in her early 30s, has a dark black hair and medium height. Right away, police bulletin description of women in newspaper and TV, with the prize money of $3,000 for any information. Few hours later, women called the police and said that her neighbor looked suspicious and her behavior was strange and claimed that she is pregnant, but no one believed her. And almost 3 days ago, I saw a baby with her and her name Mary Ray. Investigators opened her file and discovered that she had 4 children living with her ex-husband and that she worked in factory. They also discovered that Mary had been arrested because she was drinking alcohol while driving. Well, the detectives went to her house, but they wanted to enter cautiously because if she saw the police, maybe she will do something for the baby. When they got to her house, they saw her in the garden of the house. So they told her, you have to pay the fine for drinking alcohol while driving. She said, no, I paid in advance and there are no other fines. They told her, we apologize, but we have to arrest you. Or if you allow us to call from your phone to make sure that you don't have any driving ticket. She said, yes, of course, go ahead. When the detectives entered, they saw Mary covering the milk bottle. When they sat down, they asked her, do you have a baby at home? She said, no, I don't. The detective said, so why did you cover the milk bottle? She was shocked and said, yes, I have. He's sleeping inside. The detective said, we want to see him. When the detective saw the baby, directly he knew that this was Richard and Bonnie's son, because when the interrogator questioned Bonnie's sister, she told him that the baby had fingers attached to each other in his foot and he had a slightly folded ear. The interrogator told her, this is not your son. Where is Bonnie? What did you do to her? She said, I don't know what you are talking about. I bought the baby from his parents near the supermarket. What the hell? I feel like she bought potato or cucumber. Well, the police returned the baby to his family. They found newspaper in Mary's house that marked the names of newborns. 1 minute? This point, I honestly did not understand how the newspaper published the names of newborns and how did they get their names. If anyone knows about this, tell me in the comments. Mary denied all the charges and kept saying that she bought the baby and did not kidnap him. But during the search, the police discovered a lot of blood in the trunk of Mary's car. Police charged her with 2 charges, kidnapping and murder, but Mary didn't confess where Bonnie's body was. But after 10 days, the farmer's supervisor in one of the nearby orchards saw shoes among the trees, and when he approached, he discovered that it was a corpse and immediately ran and called the police. When the police arrived and after the inspection, they discovered it was Bonnie. Bonnie was stabbed several times in the heart and lung with a 10-centimeter knife, the same size as knife that disappeared from Richard's house. Then, Mary confessed that she tried to kidnap the baby, but when Bonnie saw her, she ran and tried to get her son back. But Mary stabbed her several times, then cleaned the place of blood, and she put Bonnie in the trunk and ran away and threw Bonnie's body in the orchard. The court sentenced Mary to life imprisonment. As for Richard, unfortunately, his mental health deteriorated and he died after 8 years due to addiction. But the baby lived with his aunt and grew up and got married. But until now, he's sad for the loss of his parents. The lesson from this story is not to trust anyone and do not let any stranger enter your house. This world is not a paradise. There are good people, but unfortunately, the bad ones are more. Don't forget like and something else like a comment or subscribe. That's all for today and peace.